Well, it's time for another Hot Air Sports podcast, and I'm back. Macca, is Mahona back? There he is.
Woohoo! I'm here, mate. I'm here. How are you? How are you this week?
Oh, very good indeed. It's we're only a couple of weeks away from Super Rugby starting up, so I'm buzzing.
Oh, buzzing. Yeah, mate. I'm actually lucky I am here this week. You know why?
Why is that?
Because I don't know whether you can see that up the top here.
Oh,
jury summons.
Jury summons.
That's right. I'm supposed to be on jury duty this weekend. This week. And I wrote a letter and said, I can't do it. I'm an essential service. I'm on this exceptionally high quality podcast, and it's all about sports. And I watch way more sports than I watch CI. So I have to do it for the Hot Air Sports podcast. I passed aside my civic duty, and I'm here with you to talk a whole bunch of sports today.
Oh, you're a wonderful man.
Oh, the things we do, eh? And actually, I was just
tell you otherwise.
I was just actually scrolling through my Facebook page, as you do sometimes, and this memory came up from 5 years ago today. I love the reaction of my old mate Ian McDonald as Boss Moana hits a 3-run home run for the New Zealand Diamondbacks. And I don't know whether you can see this.
Yep.
But look at the mouth. The mouth is wide open.
I remember it vividly. I think probably the highlight of my working career was that 5 days in Sydney as media manager for the New Zealand Diamondbacks baseball team. And yes, that bomb that Boss hit was an absolute bomb. Some of the largest yards in America, Comerica Park, I think, when they first built it, had a nearly 400-foot outfield fence, and I think that was the Boss's bomb that day would have cleared it. The Philippines outfielder basically saw it come off the bat and just waved. As it sailed.
I think. Yeah, you actually made a comment on that post. You actually said to me, what'd you say? You said, "Brilliant. You should have heard me yell." And I thought, yep, I'll bet you did. I bet you made some noise. So good on you, mate. Good on you. That was 5 years ago today.
In Facebook memories, because today it popped up our 10-year friend-iversary on Facebook.
Wow.
We became friends on Facebook 10 years ago. Of course, I've known you for about 25 years now.
Yeah.
Anyway.
It's official, though. It's official once you're on Facebook together, isn't it?
Quite right.
Official
a couple of fine memories.
Anyway,
we've got lots to get through this week, so
come on.
Let's kick it off with football. Manchester City have taken a 5-point lead over Neighbours United into this week's games, and
they have
odds on to win the Premier League. You can't really see them losing it, while champions Liverpool are now aiming to consolidate their top 4 position with a game against Leicester this weekend. A couple of points from me. It's the first full week off that Liverpool has had. I mean, I say full week, it's only 6 days. But since early January, when we had a gap between our last game over the mad Christmas New Year break and our FA Cup game against Villa, and going back previously, oh, crikey, you're going back to probably when the season started, where the team has had a decent week off to do proper training, integrate these new players into the squad, and also bring back a couple of guys that have been in the training room for a while. I think Diogo Jota's nearly back to full fitness. And one question I've got for you is, when's Naby Keita gonna play? And at the end of the season, do we keep him or sell him?
Okay, well, he's one of those sort of Minamino sort of guys, isn't he? He's flattered to deceive. Mind you, we paid a hell of a lot more for him, didn't we? We paid 50-odd million for him. I really like Naby Keita as a player. He's just got to stay fit. He's just got to get a run of games, doesn't he? As far as the time off for the team goes, or time on the training ground, that's what they've really needed for so long. The only reason they've obviously got the time off is because they didn't progress in the FA Cup. And that was kind of a blessing in disguise when you see some of these other games that are going on at the moment. 5-4 to Everton yesterday, extra time. Oh, that was a crazy game. And all sorts of extra times being played. Some of those teams are going to be massively fatigued when they play their Premier League games this weekend. I hope we can do the business against Leicester. Of course, we got, it wasn't a great week for Liverpool Football Club, was it, mate? But let's be, there's been a whole lot of doom and gloom about it. a whole lot of doom and gloom. And mate, we can still easily make the top 4. We've got a number of players to come back. Man City finally won at Anfield. All it took was $1.5 billion in the transfer market, a global pandemic, an empty stadium, a Liverpool central defensive injury crisis, 2 howlers from usually reliable best goalkeeper in the league, and they finally won. Good on them. Good on them. Well done.
Well
done to Manchester City.
Well done.
Yeah.
Yeah, going back to Naby Keita, I actually rate him highly.
So do I. Yeah.
When he first signed for Liverpool, the season that Liverpool won the Champions League, he was absolutely on fire for those first half a dozen games of that.
He was,
Yeah. And was just running the midfield like we hadn't seen since Gerrard days. You know, Jordan Henderson, as good a player as he is, Naby Keita just is a absolutely complete box-to-box midfielder. Great passing range, really good dribbler, and just bags of energy. And I just can't wait to see him fit and get a good run of games, because I really rate this guy as a footballer, and a lot of people online.
Me too, mate.
But yeah, let's not jump too early.
We've got so many midfielders. There's so many injuries. It's like so easy to forget about them, isn't it? But no, I agree with you, mate. He could be anything. But
one question I've got for you, and I don't know whether we'll agree on this one, is do you think Liverpool are going to miss Gini Wijnaldum?
Yeah, that's an interesting one, eh? I mean, he's one of those sort of players that once again, you're either in his camp or you're not. I think he runs the midfield really well, but I don't think. I mean, look, the one thing he is great at doing is holding on to the ball. He's fantastic there, but sometimes I feel like he holds on to it for the sake of holding on to it, you know? Yeah. He sort of thinks, oh, no one can get it off me. I'll just dribble around. And you're like, pass the ball. He sort of slows it down. A little bit like Thiago's doing a little bit at the moment. But no, look, I rate the guy. I love what he's done for us. If he's not going to sign a contract for us, though, we can't do anything about it. We just got to get another player in there. I think Curtis Jones could be an able-made replacement for him as a young Scouser. I do rate him as a player, but what can we do if he's not going to sign for us? So we just got to have to move on from Gini Wijnaldum. Was my thoughts. What are yours?
I tend to agree. I think he is a good player. He's a good, solid player, but he's not a Steven Gerrard. You know, he's not going to win you lots of games. Yes, he popped up and scored a couple of goals coming off the bench against Barcelona those years ago.
Yeah, so did Origi.
Yeah, and so did Origi. But yeah, I think there's quite often you see moves starting to come together and flowing, and suddenly Ginny decides he wants to take 3 touches.
Yeah,
and the whole momentum goes out of the game. I disagree with you on Thiago. I think he's a fantastic player. And yes, he has slowed the play down on some occasions, but I think he's had to in a lot of occasions, because there's just not the options been available to him up forward. And for those that say he does slow our game down, he's actually the midfielder that's passed the ball forward the most of any of our midfielders.
I feel a bit sorry for Thiago in the position that he's been placed in. I think that he'll come to life when Fabinho moves back to the midfield, to be fair. Yeah. When you've got Fabinho holding, he won't need to look back or do any of that sort of stuff. To me, he's kind of been playing in the wrong position. If I was Klopp, I would have played Gini Wijnaldum in the deep position. He's going to be leaving. So play him there and let Thiago go forward a bit further. Yeah. But, I mean, who's to say? Anyway, what about the relegation battle, mate? Relegation looks set already. 8-point gap between 16th place Burnley at the bottom of the tree and the 3 at the bottom, Fulham, West Brom and Sheffield United. It looks done and dusted, doesn't it?
It certainly does. You can't really see any of those sides stringing together the 3 or 4 wins that they need to do to get out of the relegation zone. And the likes of Burnley and other teams around, just hovering above that relegation zone seem to be doing enough to stay out of the relegation zone. And one of those, Newcastle, I certainly hope they stay up. Everybody has your favourite team, and quite often a lot of people have their second and third favourite team. Well, Newcastle's in my top 3. I've always loved Newcastle. They've always played an attractive style of football, and I'd love to see them stay up. But yeah, Fulham, West Brom and Sheffield United pretty much looks set to be what we see.
Looks a done deal, eh? I love Newcastle too. I've always loved Newcastle ever since the Kevin Keegan days, all that sort of stuff, Alan Shearer. But one thing I would ask you is, what do you think of Steve Bruce then? I mean, as far as the extractive style goes, he's certainly not playing that for poor old Newcastle. Come on.
Yeah, no, he's always been seen as a bit of a defensive manager, hasn't he? I mean, that goes back to his days as a defender for our non-favourite club. But speaking of defenders, the two new centre-backs in for Liverpool, Ben Davis and Ozan Kabak, we'll be hoping for some game time now. They've had a couple of weeks getting to know their teammates. What my comment on that is, it's pretty tough on Nat Phillips, who's filled in pretty well.
Yeah, it is tough on him, but I mean, that's the way it goes in professional football, isn't it? But I did notice on the bench, Nat Phillips did make it ahead of Ben Davies for their last game in Manchester City. So obviously, Klopp's still impressed enough to think that maybe he's still ahead of him in the pecking order. Of course, Klopp isn't the sort, though, to throw new guys in there willy-nilly. He always sort of says, look, it takes time to adjust to our style. We're a different sort of team. So yeah, they'll get game time. I'm very interested to see this Turkish guy, Ozan Kabak. Lots of talk about him.
I wouldn't be surprised to see him starting against Leicester. So that could be.
Well, that'll be a test to start with, playing against Jamie Vardy to start with, mate. You know,
quite right. Is it just me, or do referees seem to be officiating the game like a game of netball at the moment? Just watching 6 or 7 games over the last couple of weeks, refs seem to be blowing up really innocuous fouls and penalties when an attacker falls over a defender's leg. Thankfully, we've seen the league turn over a couple of those strange recent red.
Mate.
Jan Bednarek not even touching Anthony Martial.
That was crazy. He was heading down, wasn't he? I mean, Martial was halfway through a dive. He pulled out. And then he gets sent off for it. The double jeopardy.
I know. And Thomas Suchek's elbow on Fulham's Mitrovic, that was another absolutely unbelievable.
Oh, just raising his arms to sort of create some space, slightly grazed him. And Mitrovic was like, no, don't send him off. It's not worthy of a send-off. And what really pissed me off about that one was Mike Dean going to the screen, getting told by the guy upstairs, oh, you better have a look at this, goes to the screen, watches the replay about 4,000 times. And it's just on and on. And you're going, dude, once you've watched it once, you should be able to make a decision. If you can't, stick with your original decision. But I mean, surely you're there to overturn a clear and obvious error. That was the point of there was no clear and obvious error. He hadn't made one because he didn't give the free kick. Mate, that was just crazy. That was just crazy.
That, I picked up, I don't know whether you saw this, it was in the Everton Spurs game. Yeah. And Pierre Højbjerg was running into the penalty area. Calvert-Lewin happened to run behind him and tripped over his leg. And the referee gave a penalty. I mean,
it doesn't seem to matter anymore. It doesn't seem to matter anymore how you touch anyone in the penalty box.
Yeah.
You could, doesn't seem to matter. If you're touched, you're willing. We love our Liverpool Football Club, but even Mo Salah's penalty that he got against Manchester City, for me, that is a penalty all day based on the rules. But it's ridiculous. A guy touches you on the shoulder, and all of a sudden your legs don't work. I mean, but that's the world we're living in now, mate. That's the world we're living in.
I think the referees should put microphones on and just start saying contact, penalty, pass, or shot.
Absolutely. The thing is, though, mate, is it a problem with the VAR or is it a problem with the officiating? Because to me,
it's the officiating.
It is the officiating. It's the interpretation. What they need is someone in Stockley Park who's they need a player. They need, like they did with the NRL, an ex-player, an ex-referee who's got some skin in the game, has some idea of the nuance of the game, who's watched a million games, who understands the feel of it. Because at the moment, it's like they're just trying to machine the decisions. It's either black or white, and football is 90% of the time it's not black or white. It's not unless you're talking about offside or across the line and the goal. There's no black or white decisions. You have to make that decision on instinct, and they're just not doing that at the moment, are they? They're just not doing that.
I tell you what, the referees and probably a few players should do is get on YouTube and watch a few clips from football from the 60s and 70s.
Yeah.
And then
Absolutely.
come back and start refereeing.
Absolutely. I'm not, the referees are just like there, and they put it down, and they go again. It's like watching the rugby from the 80s and the 90s when they put down a scrum. When they put down a scrum, the guys just come over, there's a scrum, they're out. The ball's out again. You're like, shit, that didn't take 5 minutes to set up. What's going on? It's like once again, they're just trying to bring it down to the nth degree, trying to make it more of a science, and it's not. It's
one thing I haven't been happy about with the referees was the fact that Mike Dean's asked to be stood down from officiating this weekend after he and his family received death threats. This is just absolutely crazy.
Yeah, it's just bullshit, mate. I mean, look, Mike Dean's an idiot.
Yeah,
but I'm not going to go online and say I'm going to kill your family. And come on, man. It's just. Look, mate, it's the same as It's the same as the Rashford Martial thing. The other day they make a couple of mistakes and all the fans go on there. Argh! It's like people just need to calm the hell down. It's a game.
And even Liverpool fans with Alisson making a couple of mistakes. Suddenly he's Loris Karius.
Oh, what
break!
I know, mate. And the amount of times he saved us as well.
Yeah, exactly.
And then also, we find out this week that Klopp's lost his mum.
Yeah.
And he's been prickly for the last month, and there's been a lot of journalists and a lot of pundits having a crack at him and saying, "Oh, you're not your smiley self when you're not winning," and really having a big old crack at him. And now we find out that his mum's died. He can't go to the funeral. He found out about a week ago, about 4 or 5 days ago. So it would have been around the time of the Manchester City game. So, man, people have lives. People exist outside the sphere of this
outside the football bubble.
They do. Hey, surprisingly enough, even you and I have a life outside sport.
Do we?
I think. No, I'm just here all day, mate. Here all day. I'm talking to someone else straight after you. Here all day. Try the fish. Tip your waitress.
Quite right. And just as an aside, Lee Mason, the other referee involved in a couple of those strange decisions that we talked about earlier.
Very strange,
he's been stood down this weekend as well. So neither Mike Dean or Lee Mason will be refereeing this year.
It's sad.
It is.
No surprises here, though, mate. The latest money rankings are out. Manchester City and United have the worst records of profit and loss across all European transfer markets over the past 5 years or so. City have lost £554 million, £500 million, while United have lost 515, so over £500 million as well. Barcelona, PSG, Inter, and Everton are the next worst, while Everton... Well, they've bought a lot of players, haven't they? And while champions Liverpool only have a deficit of £113 million. That's not bad considering our success over the last few years. Other notables, Leeds have a worse deficit than Real Madrid. And no Premier League team held a positive balance during that time period. What do you make of all this?
It says what we've been saying, well, not just us, what a lot of people have been saying, that
financial fair play
is just an absolute load of bollocks.
It is.
You can't, City can afford to lose that much money because they're backed by a Saudi oil magnate. But I'm pretty sure the Glazer family aren't overly happy about losing £500 million, which translate into nearly $1 billion American dollars. So their backing must run out at some stage soon. But
have they ever put any money into Manchester United though? Don't they just take money out?
It appears. I don't know. I mean, it's just it's ridiculous. And I noticed yesterday or the day before that the French Football Association have asked the government for a bailout because the Ligue 1 is losing so much money. Yeah, I'm sure the French taxpayers would love to pay extra taxes just to keep up PSG's immense bill.
Kylian Mbappe needs a break, mate. He can't survive on £350,000 a week. Oh God help us.
The type of money that these clubs are losing is probably the entire budget for small countries.
Yeah,
absolutely crazy.
The figures are astronomical.
Another interesting highlight that came across my desk this week was veteran Juventus goalkeeper Gianluigi Buffon was charged with blasphemy by the Italian football officials, which carried a one-match ban.
Yep. No, fair enough.
Can't
Look,
say
you can
I've heard of that one before, but he escaped a ban as the video audio of him saying "God is a pig" was unclear.
Ricky Gervais would never play in Italy. The whole thing is with this: the Italian FA, notorious as far as racism and all that goes. People throw banana skins on and they say, "No, nothing happened here. Nothing happened here." But you can't abuse God. You can't abuse. It's like, don't say anything about the Mother Mary. But you're a black guy. Here's a banana. I mean, come on. I mean, yeah. I mean, it is the Roman Catholic Church.
I've been watching football for coming up 50 years. And, I've never heard of anybody banned from a game for blasphemy.
No, neither have I. But it had to happen in Italy, didn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
1 week the Phoenix get battered by the Central Coast, but win. The next week they play well against Sydney, but they lose. Ufuk must be getting frustrated by this inconsistency, mate.
Oh, unbelievable. That game against Sydney. The Phoenix outshot Sydney 20 shots to 4.
Yep.
And on target, Phoenix 4-2. How many goals did Sydney score? 2. Barbarousa scores with Sydney's only shots on target.
Yeah.
What does that say?
It says we don't have someone that can finish the goals, and I heard Ufuk basically saying that we're letting ourselves down. We're getting in the good positions to score the goals, and we're just not doing it. So they're going to have to get clinical. I mean, that's something we didn't have a problem with when Roy Krishna was there, eh? I mean,
Roy Krishna, Paul Eiffel, Shane Smeltz, Nathan Burns.
Well, on that note, mate, newcomer Tom Hamid is still to score for the Phoenix. He's had some bloody good opportunities to do it. He was dragged at halftime against Sydney. How long do you give new players before they start hitting their straps?
Yeah, it's last week I said that, he'd actually had some good impact in moments in some of the games, but they're only moments really, aren't they? And he's not having as much of an influence on games as I think especially Ufuk Talai was hoping. And I think he was probably hoping that he might have scored a goal or two by now. If we didn't have the wee Mexican Ulysses Devere playing, I don't think we would have seen. He's scored goals, I think, so far. With David Ball and Mitrovic, the other new signing, Miratovic, I should say. The only two others that have scored a goal so far. So, how long do you give new players? Wow, it's a toughie. I mean, if they're having an influence on the game, creating goals for others or creating chances even, you give them a bit longer. But if he's not having an effect in that front third of the field at all, it's time to try something else, I think.
Yeah, mate, it's difficult for strikers, eh? And if you're not scoring, you're not doing it. I mean, you can do nothing else but score and you'll still make the side every week, that's your primary job. You could just be out of the game for 60 minutes and not touch the ball, but then get one chance and put it away, and that's what you're there for. And it's always difficult, mate. You better start scoring some goals. Just before we finish on the football, mate, a couple of things that I caught up with over the week. Roy Keane's comments that fired up Liverpool fans over the week when he said they're bad champions. I mean, God, the Liverpool fans just come out. They just tip the bait here. What about Manchester United back in '96 when they were terrible too? How about? I'm just like, God, listen. Roy Keane is full of rhetoric, but he never backs it up. He always says, "Oh, they don't run around enough. They should run around more. Why aren't they running around more?" He always says, they should just score more goals. If they can't score more goals, they shouldn't. He never says anything and backs it up with any facts.
My favourite one recently of Roy Keane was, if I was in the team with David De Gea, I'd get in the dressing room and punch him.
Punch his legs out.
That's a good way to get him to play better. Punching him. Well done, Roy.
Well, it worked in my day. I could punch him on the field. But anyway, he's entertainment. He's box office.
Well, that's just why they keep him on.
Exactly. Just because he's saying something against Liverpool, I'm sorry. I'm not going to rise to the bait. I actually enjoy watching Roy Keane, as much as I enjoy watching Graham Souness, as much as I think they're terrible pundits, I watch them for the entertainment and I take them for what they are.
Yeah.
The other thing that I just want to quickly go is Minamino make a great start for Saints, mate. He scored an absolutely cracking goal, didn't he? I thought, that's what Origi can't do. What did you make of that?
Oh, yeah, it was a great goal. Took it really well, and it was just a shame that it didn't help his team to a win.
No.
Yeah, I really hope he does well there. I mean, Klopp said that he doesn't want to sell him. You know, he wants to keep him on come the end of the season. But in Liverpool's current situation, they, you know, pretty much Salah, Firmino, and Mane have to play every week.
Yeah. But they're playing, Origi occasionally. I just think he'd be a better option. So, anyway, should we move on to another sport, mate? Can we move on to cricket?
Yes. Well, England, in particular, Captain Joe Root have started their series with a hiss and a roar, thrashing India by 227 runs in the first test of 4 in Chennai.
Yep.
Will they be good enough to overcome their hosts at home to make the World Test Championship final against the Black Caps?
Well, let's have a look at this. Let's have a deep dive, shall we? I've got it. Okay, so India can still qualify because I watched a bit of this test, the England-India. It was a good game of cricket. And I'm loving my test cricket at the moment. India can still qualify if they win. They have to win 2-1 or 3-1. Okay, so that's the only way that India can qualify. England can qualify, but they have to win 3-0, 3-1, or 4-0. Okay, so that's the only way that England can qualify. Now, there's a number of ways that Australia can qualify. Australia can qualify if England win 1-0, 2-0, 2-1, if the series is drawn 1-1, or if the series is drawn 2-2. So based on that, I think we're most likely to meet Australia. Would you say? Would you say that?
You make a very valid point there. You know, I'm going to go back to the India-Australia series in Australia recently, where India got absolutely caned big time in the first test, but came back and obviously won that series 2-1. So are we seeing the same? Is it because of India bringing back all these players that were injured and changing the side? Is it just changed a few too many things in one go to keep them on that form they had in Australia? And now that they've been together for 5 days, or longer than 5 days, obviously, are we going to see them put it together in the second, third, and fourth tests? It's going to be a very interesting series.
Mate, I hope so. It was a closely contested game. I mean, it was basically Jimmy Anderson on that last day. Some awesome bowling on that last day. But once again, the pitches, the conditions, it's just fascinating at the moment, man. Test cricket. What a great! I'm really enjoying it, mate. Loving it.
I think England are glad that they've got the what do they call it? The third umpire. Because some of the decisions the Indian umpires made were
I know.
A bit dodgy.
We found that a little bit, haven't we, with the local umpires in all the countries making some hometown decisions. Should we just keep it at that? I'm not saying they're corrupt or anything.
No, not at all.
I think they do get influenced, I think they get influenced by other things going on. The West Indies fight to the bitter end and chase down a mammoth 395 on day 5 to beat Bangladesh by 3 wickets, with newcomer Kyle Mayers hitting a majestic double century to win the game. I think this guy averaged about 24 in first-class cricket before he came out to bat. His first innings in Test cricket, and he hits a double century. Wow.
Not a bad effort.
It's pretty good, eh?
To do it, especially on day 5 of a Test match in Bangladesh. I mean, normally, you know, those Asian pitches, they're turning sideways by day 3, let alone day 5. So that's a hell of a finish.
It's unheard of, eh?
Wondering what the hell's gone wrong there to give up that lead and lose it on the final day.
Yeah, crazy, eh? Crazy. And Steve Smith was awarded the Allan Border Medal 1 year on from his 1-year ban. He also was awarded the Wisden Cricketer of the Decade just a couple of weeks ago. What do you make of this, man? This guy was banned only a year ago for basically cheating and then denying he cheated. Do you think that's an acceptable winner? Aren't there more deserving winners?
Well, I would have given it to Pat Cummins for starters. He's by far and away the best bowler going around in the world at the moment. Yeah, it doesn't pass the sniff test for me.
Nah.
I just think it's a bad look for both Australian cricket and ICC giving those awards to a proven cheat. I mean, I'm all in favour of he's done his time and all that, but when you see the things he was getting up to during that series against India, claiming, oh, I always do that, and his captain saying, oh, Smithy always does that. Well, in the middle of a game of Test cricket, if you're not batting, stay off the wicket now.
I thought everyone knew that. I really did.
Well, exactly.
And then trying to make an excuse for it is almost worse.
Yeah.
It's almost worse. It's almost like they're going, "Oh, yeah, okay, I was being a dog," and then denying you're a dog.
Yeah.
Come on, buddy. Come on, mate. Just one last thing on cricket, and maybe karma coming home to rest. I did notice something during the week. If Australia hadn't been docked 4 points for a slow over rate in the Boxing Day Test against India, they would be above New Zealand in the World Test Championship table. So there you go. Just a little bit of
karma. Well,
a little bit of karma to finish our cricket segment with. Should we move to rugby league, mate? My sport of choice.
Yep.
The Dragons have passed on Izzy Folau. Probably a good move given his history. And the cashed up Warriors boss, Cameron George, says that they're not interested in him either. Good for them. Why would they be?
That'd put the cat amongst the pigeons, wouldn't it, if the Warriors decided to bring in Israel Folau?
I would be quite upset about that. I don't think I'd quite go to the thing of sort of sending Cameron George. I want to kill your family, but wouldn't be happy. I wouldn't be happy. The thing is Israel Folau the quality athlete in rugby league that he was a long time ago? I don't think he is. I mean, yeah, he's a good player, but like probably Gareth Bale for Tottenham. His best years are past him. And I think I can't see any NRL team picking them up. To be fair, the Warriors have also been criticised for not releasing Tohu Harris, Cody Nikorima, and Chanel Harris-Tavita for their preseason All-Star game. The club says keeping the side together, given all the trials and tribulations of last season, it's important that these players spend as much time with the squad and a new coach, Nathan Brown, before the season starts. I think Nathan Brown made this call himself, and I'm all for this. I just think, the beginning of the season is one thing. I mean, giving Benji, we talked about this last week. Benji Marshall's a different case. The guy's near his end of his career, wants to play for the Maori, fair enough. But these guys are key players in our side. And can you imagine if one of them got injured and was out for the whole season?
Yeah.
We'd all be going, why are they playing? So no, It's a sensible decision to me. So just get on with it and win for the Warriors, please.
Yeah, it seems to be that the Warriors have really turned over a new leaf over the last couple of years with all this pandemic-related stuff that they've had to go through. They seem to be, I don't know whether it's the influence of Phil Gould or not, but they seem to be just a little bit more conservative around things like this and, making sure the team is in Australia early. I mean, last year was a bit different, obviously, but just doing everything they can to try and make it as easy as they possibly can for the whole team. And so then all the players have to worry about is playing their boots up properly and getting on the field and catching the ball and passing it. So, good on the Warriors for this. I think it's a great move. And as you say, imagine Tohu Harris going down with a knee injury in the first minute of that game or the last minute of that game.
It'd be like Diego Jota getting injured against Ludogorets, wouldn't it? But looking at this Maori side, mate, it's stacked. Shans Nickel-Klokstad, Dallin Watene-Zalesniak. Everyone's got a hyphen name these days, don't they? So that's DNK at the back with DWZ. Joseph Manu, Dylan Walker, Remus Smith, Jerome Luai, Jerome Hughes from the Storm. That's the back line. That is a pretty handy back line. And then in the forwards, they're even better. Jesse Bromwich, Brandon Smith, James Fisher-Harris, Britton Decora, Kenny Bronwich, and Joseph Tarpany. I mean, that is an international quality squad, mate. They are a team that is stacked with absolutely fantastic players. And
just one quick question on one of those players you just mentioned, Brandon Smith.
Mate.
What's his future? What's his future?
Well, he still hasn't made his choice. I think once again, I mean, I would have thought that this would have been resolved by now. Cameron Smith, it's all sort of, what's going on with Cameron Smith? So it's almost like they're linked because Brandon's waiting for Cameron to make his decision at Melbourne. Is he going to go north and play for the Titans, or is he going to play at all? So it's all linked. I've heard Brandon Smith basically say, if I can't play hooker, I don't want to play for Melbourne. So he said, I don't want to get any bigger. They're trying to bulk him up so that he can play lock, and he doesn't want to do that. He wants to play hooker. So he's going to go somewhere if Cameron Smith doesn't go somewhere. And I'd love it to be the Warriors. I mean, we're cashed up at the end of next year with Roger leaving us. I'd love him to come to the Warriors. But
well, how old's Brandon now?
He's not old, man. He's only like 24, maybe 20.
He's not old, but he's getting to that stage in his career now where he needs to play playing week in, week out, and playing regular football, because you can only be a promising junior for so long, can't you?
Absolutely, mate. Absolutely. But wouldn't it be great to have a Waiheke player playing for the Warriors? Someone from Waiheke Island. Wouldn't that be great?
Right. Butcher would be able to give him a lift to games.
Absolutely. And the Mad Butcher's Lounge closed down as well a couple of weeks ago. I thought that was pretty sad, obviously, because of COVID and a couple of other things that have gone on recently with the cancel culture, etc., which troubles me. But we'll get onto that in another podcast, mate.
Yes, this is a good one.
Oh yeah, go on.
Broncos forward Payne in the Haas fined $50,000 for his recent run-in with Queensland Police. Has he learned his lesson, or is he just another loose cannon waiting to explode?
I bet you wouldn't say that to his face.
Yeah, heck no.
I bet you he's heard that one a few times though. Payne in the Haas. Yeah. I've heard little Birdie say something about he's had a death in the family recently as well, and he was out drinking. I mean, God, obviously these young guys and drink, and when stuff's going on like that, it's not good. So, I think it's a storm in a teacup. I think he'll get through this. I mean, the guy's absolutely a beast of a player. So yeah, he'll get through this, mate. I don't think he's a loose cannon at all. I've heard the guy talk. I think it was just a one-off type of thing, and he didn't go on social media and call a whole sector of society evil bastards or anything, did he? So I think it's just the alcohol again. It's once again alcohol, man. Alcohol with young guys. It's crazy. Shall we go to Union?
Quite right. Well, this is one that just riles me up every single year. Again, rugby heads have decided more new rules for Super Rugby. Why can't they just leave the game alone? But no, somebody sitting behind a desk in Wellington has decided it's 12 months since we made law changes, so it's time to do it again. So we're going to have a goal line dropout instead of from the 22 and a captain's challenge.
Yeah, we're going to have 40-20s.
I'm okay with the captain's challenge. I don't mind that at all. I think it's a good thing, because so many times you see captains going up to referees. And I think we saw it in one of the league games last year where Cameron Smith queried the referee's decision.
And the referee said, "You want a challenge?"
Yeah, and he didn't. So
and he went, oh.
So it's putting the onus back on the captains to decide when they speak to the referee. But a goal line dropout, really? What's next? No lineouts and losing the flankers and playing with a six-man pack?
Yeah.
Gee, that
40-20.
It sounds familiar to another sport.
40-20s and stuff, hey? I mean, that's, look, you and I are used to it because it happens every bloody year. They change the rules. And it's like players only just start to get used to the rules and then they change again. And this is half the problem with the flow of the game. Although I must say, some of these rules are trying to improve the flow of the game. I think what they're trying to do is get rid of the scrums in the game. So obviously to speed it up, etc. Back to what we were talking about before in the 80s with, there's a scrum, there are balls out. And I think that's sort of probably what they're trying to achieve with this. Whether it works, though, I mean, there's also the...
I'm going to disagree with you on that. I want more scrums in rugby. The goal line dropout is going to replace 5-man scrums, 5-meter scrums, which takes more of the game away from the forwards. They're just going to end up like league forwards, big rangy guys that haven't got much weight behind them. And, the thing I love about rugby, and to a lesser extent rugby league, is it's a game for all sizes. From the 5'6" halfback who weighs 80 kilos to the 120 kilogram prop.
Is it really at the elite level though? Is it really? Or is that just that just a myth? I don't think so. Not at the elite level anymore. I don't think it's a game for all people anymore at the elite level, bro. I think most of those guys aren't like your average size person.
Well, I think Aaron Smith would disagree with you on that.
Yeah, but he's 1 in a million. He really is. I mean,
lots of small halfbacks around.
I don't know, mate. I think at the elite level they are big lumps, and I sort of agree with you in purpose. Look. For me, the scrum is the bane of rugby. If you want to fix the scrum, fix the scrum. Don't say, it's a problem, so we'll have less scrums. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that's perhaps the point.
And we just talked about it off air before we started. 30 years ago when they had scrums, they all just came together, had the scrum, the ball was out, bang, it's gone.
Yep, absolutely.
Only when the game became more of a power game, that the pushover scrum was popular for a couple of years, and then they thought, oh no, this is injuring too many props. Yes, it is at the lower levels, but I can think of maybe 1 or 2 that have had a serious neck injury from scrums at the elite level. I mean, that's probably 1 or 2 too many, but if they did it properly. And the other thing I would like to see in rugby, another change, is go to not all the way towards it, but go some of the way towards the way basketball is played. If the ball's out of play, the clock stops.
Yeah, I'd be into that as well.
I mean, if you're leading by 4 points with 5 minutes to go and you get a scrum, you can virtually say we've won this game, because there's enough ways you can make the scrum look untidy.
Yep.
And run that clock down. It's too easy.
Yep.
So
I agree.
Stop the clock. And start it as soon as the halfback puts the ball in. The clock starts.
Yep.
And when you blow for a scrum, stop the clock.
Would you do the same with lineouts?
Not necessarily. They can. I mean, you get quick lineouts.
You can, but they can still. If you're going to stop the clock for scrums, you're probably going to have to do it for lineouts too.
They're not as. I mean, lineouts aren't as technical as scrums, and you can't really waste a lot of time with a line out.
No, but if you're not wasting time, then why not just stop the clock then?
Well, yeah, exactly.
I mean, it's I don't know. I do often get well, that's the thing. The ball's out of play. Give me more action on the field. No, that's a really good point. That's a really good point.
Somewhere recently that in an 80-minute game, the ball's actually only in play for 32 minutes.
I know.
So let's change the timings, have 25-minute halves, but you stop the clock every time the ball goes out of play.
We've just fixed it.
We did. And even for penalty kicks and conversions, they take place with the clock stopped.
Absolutely. That's crazy. The clock's still ticking for those.
Yep.
Why should we be waiting for that guy to line it all up and get his thing? Oh, the ball's fallen off. The clock's still ticking. The ref can stop after a minute or so, but why are we getting a minute off the clock? No, that's stupid. New league recruit to New Zealand Rugby, to Roger Tuivasa-Sheck, has confirmed that he's going to play as NPC and Super Rugby. Drum roll, please. In Auckland. Auckland. There was no secret that was going to happen, was there? Yes, he's going to play for the Blues, and he's probably going to play for Auckland. Is that right? Auckland, the NPC, I'd say.
And then the NPC.
Yeah, no surprises in that. I think Roger's going to look bloody nice in blue, mate. A lot better than that colour you got on.
Yeah. Oh, come on. Come on.
I like the red. I like the red behind your shoulder. That's a nicer color red, and a way better logo. Way better logo than that double thing you've got going on there.
Right.
US-based investment company Silver Lake are planning a $465 million injection of cash into New Zealand rugby. Now, my question, will any of that money get to the grassroots level of the game, or is it going to be spent on marketing and paying consultants to come up with more whiz-bang ads and hand-in-hand walking down the beach promotions? Or is it just all going to go to the All Blacks? What do you reckon?
Well, the cynic in me would say that the Wairarapa Bush Rugby Union are probably not going to see a cent of that. It wouldn't surprise me at all if none of that cash filters down and it all goes towards the promotion of the All Blacks and Super Rugby. I mean, it's great to get the injection of cash into New Zealand rugby. Does that mean they're going to hire another 50 people for New Zealand rugby head office in Wellington? Probably. They're talking about setting up the marketing arm of New Zealand rugby.
Here we go.
In an office space in Auckland.
We have to increase our social media presence.
Oh, just the
Obviously.
other thing is, will current or future players benefit, and will this allow New Zealand rugby to keep hold of its biggest stars rather than losing them to UK, Europe, and Japan?
Probably. And what I would also like to happen would be for New Zealand rugby to reward its past stars a little bit. I don't think that there's been any sort of thought given to those guys, and we've seen on TV recently a lot of those guys have been through hard times. And what about the Players Association doesn't really do a hell of a lot for them either. They're getting this sort of much cash, and it's only for a small portion of I think the New Zealand Rugby Union is valued at over $2 billion or something like that. So I think this is only for, is it a 20% or 15% stake? If they're getting that much cash injection, surely some of it can go to the past players as well.
Oh, absolutely. I've always been a proponent of getting past players, including those that played before the professional era came in.
Absolutely.
They were amateur. They got paid a weekly allowance, which was pretty...
Which they spent at the pub after one game.
Yeah, quite right. I remember I've talked about this before, how Bob Charles, when he was playing top golf, 1% of all his earnings came straight back to the New Zealand Golf Foundation, and that helped promote the game amongst junior players. And I'd like to see a percentage of all professional rugby players go into a fund to prorata out the players. I think that would be fantastic. The other thing I'd like to see the Players Association do, and I think to a certain extent they are doing it, that is when a new player signs a new contract, they're deferring some of that money to be paid after the player retires. It happens a lot in American sports where, for example, Alex Rodriguez, when he signed his last deal with the Yankees, it was a 10-year deal, 375 million or something like that. But during that 10 years, he only got paid about 200 million of that. The other 175 million was deferred. So he gets paid, part of that salary every year, for the next 15, 20, 25 years. I don't know how long.
Great idea.
And that just means that once those guys do retire from the game, they don't have to.
They don't have zero. They're not starting from ground level zero again, are they?
Yeah.
So even if they haven't planned for their thing, they haven't gone and got qualifications and some other thing, they've got at least something to fall back on,
So
and especially when you're talking telephone numbers, it's not like we're talking small amounts. You're talking large amounts of money. All you need to do is keep a portion of that, I don't know.
Exactly.
Shall we carry on with the rugby though, mate? Let's just quickly go over the Six Nations. It began with a bang, and Scotland upset favourites England at Twickenham 11-6. Come on, those Jocks. They played bloody well. The first time the Northerners have won there since 1983. God, Kilton,
big win. A big one. Celebrating.
Yeah, they probably are. And kilted Kiwi Sean Maitland shows no signs of slowing down. He had an absolute beauty of a game.
Oh, didn't he? That one run he made in the second half, he pushed off about 5 tacklers.
Jonah
playing against kids. It was great to see Sean Maitland showing those signs. I mean, he's been playing rugby for about 16 years now at the top level, so he's doing pretty well. He's still pretty quick.
Absolutely. And France thrash Italy 50-10, asking further questions of the Italians' future participation in the competition. They've never been any good, have they? Well, Wales come from behind in the second half to beat 14-man Ireland 21-16, who had flanker Peter O'Mahony, I like his name, sent off for a flying shoulder charge on prone Welsh prop Thomas Francis in the 14th minute. What'd you make of those results?
Yeah, pretty much for the form book for the France-Italy game. I did expect Ireland to beat Wales. They've not been performing so well under Kiwi coach Wayne Pivac. But good win, and good to see George North regain a bit of form in the number 13 jersey, which is a bit different for him, having played right wing all his life. And that was his 99th test, and sadly he's injured one of his calves, I think it is, and he's going to miss out on playing his 100th test this weekend against Scotland. So
bugger.
Hard luck for George North, but a good performance by Wales. They stuck at it right till the end, and even though the Irish were down to 14, they still played a pretty good game. And it just raises the question again, doesn't it, about the sending off in rugby. I see in Super Rugby this year, both on this side of the Tasman and Australia, if a player gets sent off, they can be replaced after, I think it's 10 minutes or 20 minutes. I can't remember the exact figure, but it'll be interesting to see how that works. Yet another rule change. Yay.
Yeah, I think they have to do something about the red card. It does kill the game. So, that sounds like a good thing to me that they're going to be replacing them. Should we move to your sport, mate? Baseball. It's nearly.
I'm getting excited.
You are. Yeah.
Pitchers and catchers report to spring training venues in Florida and Arizona next week. It's a couple of days before position players report. Teams will have about 30 spring training games before the season begins on April the 1st. Most big player business is all done, especially with Trevor Bauer signing for the Dodgers. And teams will still pick up bits and pieces once games begin in about 10 days. But yes, and the big news of that coming out of the States yesterday was that the New York governor, Andrew Cuomo, has said that stadiums from 23rd of February onwards can hold up to 1/5 of their capacity, which means we can see some baseball fans in Yankee Stadium and, of course, over at the Mets Stadium as well. So they've obviously think that with the vaccinations now, they've starting to knock coronavirus on the head. I hope that's true.
We shall see.
Well, yeah, we shall see. But the teams are going to be in bubbles. So once they get together next week in spring training, they're going to be best buddies for the next 6 or 7 months. So they and anybody that goes outside of that bubble will have to quarantine before coming back into the organisation.
And there was a massive deal in the last week, mate. Our top free agent pitcher, Trevor Bauer, signed for the Los Angeles Dodgers after verbally agreeing with the New York Mets. Yeah, a bit of a messy deal here. A 3-year, $102 million deal for Bauer. He's basically been signed to a premium contract after one great, albeit shortened 2020 season. Had been inconsistent. 2019, not so good. 2018, reasonably good. 2017, not so good. He's an interesting character, isn't he, Macca?
Oh, he certainly is. The thing with the Mets, he has his own website, and he sells merchandise on it. And he verbally agreed, his agent verbally agreed with the Mets, and then he put up on his website some merchandise of him wearing Mets gear, which upset a few fans because a day later he signed the deal with the Los Angeles Dodgers. So
crazy. Imagine if he had jumped in and bought that gear on that one day.
Yeah, exactly.
That could be worth a lot of money later on down the track.
Yeah, Mets Trevor Bauer jersey. But
That's
right. He's certainly an interesting character. A couple of seasons back, he was withdrawn from the mound by his Cleveland manager at the time, and he responded by turning around and throwing the ball over the outfield fence in disgust. He was traded within days from Cleveland to Cincinnati. And in 2016, he damaged his right index finger while playing with his drone, forcing him to miss a start in the American League Championship Series against Toronto. And he tried to start a World Series game against the Cubs, but had to be dragged after one inning because his finger was bleeding all over the pitching mound.
Oh, mate, this guy sounds like a dude. I'd like to have a beer with Trevor. I'd like to have a beer with
unique character.
Love to have a beer with Trevor. No, Trevor sounds like a good dude.
Yeah, he certainly is. So yeah,
but he can pitch the ball though, can't he, Mick? He's a very good player.
If his head's in a good space, he can pitch well. And perhaps maybe being in an organisation like the Dodgers, they might just quieten him down a wee bit. Who knows?
You reckon?
Dave Roberts, the manager there, is a
yeah. Well, that's true.
He's pretty strict with his players, and you don't see too many Dodgers out and about and flouting the laws. Well, unless you're a redhead and you've got just and you come back out to celebrate with your teammates.
That guy. Has he re-signed?
Just a note, the Dodgers haven't re-signed Justin Turner yet.
They haven't re-signed him yet.
They haven't, and probably not likely to.
Oh, okay, interesting.
Another point of interest, couple of announcements coming out in Major League Baseball this week. They're slightly deadening the baseballs amidst a years-long surge in home runs. They anticipate the changes will be subtle, and a memo to teams last week cited an independent lab that found the new balls will fly 30 to 60 centimetres shorter when hit longer than 114 metres. Firstly, interesting to see them coming out talking about centimetres and metres, but that's a...
Yeah, and equating it to yard. I don't know. What's going on?
The problem with the baseball has been, certainly in some of the hotter southern states, is with the dry heat, the balls dry out and become like rocks. And so it's far easier to hit something that's harder out of the ballpark than it is something that's a bit softer. So by making that slight change, and also 5 teams have also planned to add humidors to their stadiums.
Right?
Yeah, raising the total to 10 of 30 MLB stadiums equipped with humidity-controlled storage spaces. Previously, they've only had them in Arizona and Colorado because of Colorado, obviously, is rarefied air because they're way above sea level, and Arizona for the dry heat. What the humidor does is keep moisture in the ball so it doesn't fly so far. So good to see that 10 of those 30 stadiums will be equipped with those.
I thought humidors were for cigars.
Well, yeah.
That's the only time I've ever heard them used for cigars. Now they're being used for baseball.
Yes.
It's a new one on me, mate. That's a new one on me.
Yep. When I was in Arizona a couple of years back, I got to go in and have a look at the humidor at Chase Field. It's quite an interesting room.
I'll bet.
Yes, and talking about the homers, 6,776 homers were hit in the 2019 season when the harder competition balls made them fly out of ballparks across.
Is that a record?
Oh, probably by about
miles. 1,000. Yeah, I mean, the home run, it just changes, it completely changes the game, doesn't it, when there's just more home runs? Yeah. I mean, I like to see proper baseball, it's like watching Test cricket. I like to see guys running around the bases, not running around the bases when the ball's in the stand, and stealing bases and stuff like that, and great outfield plays. And when the guy's just hitting it over the fence the whole time, it sort of just takes I mean, as much as it's supposed to be, it's what everyone wants to see: launch angle and power off the bat. And that's what all the young kids probably want to see. But people like you and I, the purists, we long for those days of the old style baseball, running the bases.
Well, it's a point I made last week when talking about Hank Aaron. He hit 755 home runs,
that's right,
but still had more than 3,000 hits that weren't home runs. So it was more of an all-round game, and I think that's what the Major League Baseball's trying to get it back to a bit. It's become a bit like tennis, I guess you could say. With the power serving and aces and the power game in tennis, creating only having short rallies. baseball's trying to do the same by playing more of that, putting the ball in play. Because, of course, with the heightened home run numbers, the strikeout numbers have just skyrocketed as well. So you want to see more players putting the ball into play and not striking.
Absolutely. And MLB have also confirmed no designated hitter for the National League, Mecca. Pitchers are going to hit. I like the sound of this. I like watching pitchers hit. I like watching guys with a little bit of jeopardy. It's like watching tail enders bat in Test cricket.
Quite right. It was only last year that they put the National League designated hitter in because of the shortened season, and yes, they've basically gone back to what it was before the pandemic shortened season. So
is the American League ever going to do the same?
No, they never will. No, they like the designated hitter playing. There's pros and cons. Some pitchers just really do not like hitting.
But that makes it, they have to.
Yeah.
That's why I want to see them.
And we've seen pitchers that will refuse to sign for a National League club because they don't
want to bat.
Like hitting. And, when you come to the World Series where you're playing in a National League park, the pitchers have to hit. So an American League pitcher that doesn't want to hit, he's telling his manager, I only want to pitch at home. I don't want to pitch away.
Wow, interesting.
There's not many of those. I mean, some pitchers really do like to hit. And some of the bigger pitchers around, guys like, well, he's retired now, but CC Sabathia, who was
fancied himself as a bit of a home run hitter.
Yeah, he liked to swing the bat, but he never really liked running around the bases. So.
Fair enough, too.
See a few of those.
Fair enough.
The other thing that MLB's approved going into the season is if there's a doubleheader on a given day, they're only 7-inning games.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it does. I mean, in the past, in full seasons, it's always been 9-inning doubleheaders. But yeah, so they've
what with one thing and another at the moment in 2021. Yeah, well, let's stay stateside, shall we? And in the biggest event on the American sporting calendar took place over the last week, and we both got it wrong. The evergreen Tom Brady did it again and won his 7th Super Bowl title. Him and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers beat last year's champions, the Kansas City Chiefs. It was a bit of a bore fest, really, 31-9.
Yeah.
He's now Tom Brady's now won more titles than every other franchise in the competition. New England and Pittsburgh have 6 each. Dallas and San Francisco 5 each, and Tom Brady has won 7 all by himself. Yeah. What did you make of the game?
Yeah, it was a bit disappointing, really. I mean, Patrick Mahomes didn't really fire a shot, although he'll still be wondering where his offensive line was on the day. He got absolutely no coverage whatsoever, and it proved in one of the stats that came out of the game is the fact that he ran the most meters before passing the ball ever in a Super Bowl.
Yep.
It was a combination of really good Buccaneers defense, but poor offensive defense.
I felt so sorry for Patrick Mahomes. I think if you had swapped quarterbacks, Tom Brady would have been just as crap for them. I mean, his offensive line, you're exactly right. He had no cover. I don't know what Spagnuolo was doing. It was just weird. And another thing, I got sick of the bloody commentators mentioning Australia. Did you?
Yes.
God. Oh, sure, another shrimp on the barbie. This is for Australia. I'm not thinking, you're not just going to Australia. There's other people here listening. Anyway. Poor old Patrick Mahomes. I felt sorry for him. He'll be back, though. He'll be back.
Oh, he'll win plenty more. Don't worry about that.
He will. Now, Tampa's win means only 2 cities have shared 4 main sports titles. Los Angeles, NBA and MLB, and Tampa in the NHL and NFL. They're also the first side to make and win the Super Bowl in their hometown. And it sounded like they had a bit of hometown support there too, didn't it?
Yeah, they did. They, I think it was 25,000 fans that were allowed inside the stadium. So that was a pretty good effort. And it was actually good to hear a proper crowd cheering rather than the piped crowds that we're getting on sports at the moment.
Yeah.
Starting to get a bit sick of those.
It was just nice to sort of see a live sporting event with a crowd for sure. Yeah. And next year's Super Bowl is set for the brand new, is it SoFi Stadium? Or SoFi Stadium, and that's in Los Angeles. It's shared by the Rams and the Chargers. Amazing new stadium. This first Super Bowl in LA since 1993, and that one was held in the Pasadena's Rose Bowl, where the Cowboys consigned the Bills to their third Super Bowl loss in a row and repeated a dose a year later. I wouldn't be surprised if the Bills will be back in this next Super Bowl. They look
the way they
good
played this year, they've certainly sharpened up, haven't they? And
they have.
Could be an interesting season ahead with some of those sides that we haven't seen progress to the playoffs in previous years. But yeah, that SoFi Stadium looks absolutely beautiful. It's out near, it's in Inglewood, the suburb of Inglewood, which is out near the international airport. So that land has been vacant for a long time, and a number of, I think the Raiders wanted to build a stadium there before the Rams and the Chargers came back to town. And of course, the Raiders themselves have got a brand spanking new stadium, Vegas baby. So a couple of stadiums.
The amount of money they spend on those stadiums, and the irony that they can't fill them at the moment. I mean, brand new stadium, can't put anyone in it. It's just a little bit sad. The one thing I did notice, though, the way that everyone goes on about the Super Bowl being just such a massive event, the biggest sporting event in the world, all that sort of thing. 114.4 million people watched the Super Bowl. And when the World Cup's on, the World Cup football, 1.013 billion people watched the World Cup last time. So that just puts it into a little bit of context. About 1/10 of the same worldwide audience watched the Super Bowl, but they eat way more chicken wings.
Been some interesting comments about the halftime show.
The Weekend.
The Weekend. Never heard of him.
I've heard of him. The Weekend on Wednesday. I thought, mate, you're on the wrong day. No, I've heard of him. But look, mate, you're like me. We haven't listened to any new music since the year 1999, really, have we? we don't know what's current and new. I mean, the best thing that's the Lady Gaga when she jumped off the top of the ceiling. Mate, that was funny. And of course, Justin Timberlake when he did the but the Weekend. I mean, where's Paul McCartney? Where's Bruce Springsteen? Where's Elton John? Where are the old guys?
Just talking about rock stars, I see one of the Super Bowl ads was a Jeep ad starring Bruce Springsteen, but within days they've had to pull it because it appears Mr. Springsteen had a few too many beers before jumping in his car a couple of weeks ago.
Ooh, did he really?
He did. So
has he had a DIC?
He's had a DUI.
How the hell does that happen? Someone like Bruce Springsteen, why don't you just get someone to drive you? I never understand this. So and actually, here's another story coming out of the Super Bowl. The coach, Andy Reid, did you hear about his son?
Yes, that was tragic.
That's terrible. His son, who was a coach of an assistant coach on Andy Reid's side for not Tampa Bay, for the
Chiefs.
For the Chiefs. And he was involved on the week leading up to the Super Bowl in a nasty car accident with two young kids in hospital and ICU. And he may be criminal charges pending there. That's awful. I don't know. I mean, that may go some way to explaining how poorly coached they seemed in the Super Bowl. Who knows?
You just don't know.
Should we move to tennis, mate? Because it is underway. The Australian Open is finally underway after all those poor tennis players had to stay in their hotel for a couple of weeks. Don't know how the hell they managed. Drama. Mandatory isolation due to COVID. No Federer and Serena still trying to equal Margaret Court's record of 23 Grand Slam titles. Can she do it? She's nearly 40. What do you reckon? Can Serena make it? And who's going to win the men's title?
I can't see Serena winning it. I think there's too many other younger, better players around at the moment now. She's still a good player, don't get me wrong. But yeah, I just think that age is finally starting to catch up with Serena. I remember watching her in 1999. It was at a night session at Flushing Meadow, and she was playing Kimberly Poe as a young, she was about 17 years old at that stage and just starting to make it into the game. In the shadow of Sister Venus. But yeah, she's had a sensational career. I think she's going to struggle to equal that 23 Grand Slam titles, even though she only needs one more. As for the men, as much as I don't like saying it, I think Novak Djokovic is probably the favourite there. hoping one of the younger guys, maybe this Shapovalov, will come through. Zverev has been in good form recently. And even, I guess the Hollywood ending would be Rafa picking up the title, which would only be second.
It would. I'd love to see Rafa doing it, even though I'm not a massive Rafa fan. I mean, when there's no Federer, I'll go Rafa. I'm not a Djokovic. Is the keys in the name. He's a bit of a joke with his attitude. I mean, he's a great tennis player. Don't get me wrong, but when it comes down to it, it's generally in the men's. It's generally one of those two, isn't it? So. Although Kyrgios was pretty impressive the other day coming back, and I'm actually quite enjoying the firing up between Kyrgios and Djokovic going on there. It's quite amusing that they're airing their dirty laundry in public. I'm all for that, and actually I didn't like Kyrgios when he first came on the scene, but I'm actually growing a little bit fond of him now.
I think people are starting to warm to him now. He's coming out with all his anti-vaxxers telling people to pull their heads in, and he was especially vocal when Novak Djokovic had his pandemic tournament in Serbia. Half the competitors, including himself, picked up the infection. But one name I didn't mention there in the women's that I think is probably a really good chance is hometown hero Ash Barty.
True.
She has had an incredible rise and
playing well.
Before she turned to tennis, was playing women's cricket at a very high level. So quite a sport.
Amazing, eh?
Is Ash Barty. Now, TVNZ have got me interested in this next topic. After the Super Bowl, TVNZ Sports laid down the gauntlet, saying that Bucks quarterback Tom Brady is now the GOAT of all sports in the modern era, ahead of Michael Jordan and Tiger Woods at 3. We've got no time or inclination to name 10, but before we name our 5 GOATs of the modern era, their list was Simone Biles. This is going from 10 to 1.
Yeah.
Simone Biles, the gymnast, surfer Kelly Slater, Cristiano Ronaldo, Serena Williams, Roger Federer, Usain Bolt, Michael Phelps, Tiger Woods, Michael Jordan, and Brady. And before we go through our top 5s, Martin Devlin made an interesting point yesterday. Saying that it is actually impossible to name an all-sport GOAT because it's like comparing apples with oranges. I mean, how do you compare Don Bradman with Michael Jordan or Tom Brady or Tiger Woods, Serena Williams or Roger Federer? It's pretty much impossible. But besides that, we'll name our top 5 anyway.
Yeah, we'll give it a go. But before I give you mine, what I'm going to I must agree with Martin Devlin. The thing is, you can say who's the greatest. You can give an opinion as to who you think the greatest in a sport is, but then comparing that sport to something else. If you're going to give an overall GOAT, it has to be who is the best athlete, doesn't it? It has to be who is the most athletically capable. And if that is how you're doing it, Tom Brady wouldn't be in the top 1,000 because he's not a great. He's probably the most intelligent sports person. Maybe he'd probably be way up there for that. But as far as athletically capable, yes, he can throw the ball, but he can't run. He's just incredibly wise, and he's done it a million times. So. Yeah, I think it's almost a pointless argument as well, but it's fun. So let's do it.
The other point to that is Tom Brady plays American football, which is not played in any other country in the world.
And he only plays for half the game.
He only plays half the game.
Yep. Doesn't make any tackles. The thing is with their list as well, Cristiano Ronaldo, how the hell does he make it go? He's not even the top footballer of all time. So how is he in there? Kelly Slater's a really good one because I wouldn't have thought of Kelly Slater, but for what he's done for surfing, I would definitely probably have him somewhere up there. Simone Biles, I wouldn't have thought of her either because it's an Olympic sport, but fair credit. I mean, incredible. Cristiano Ronaldo, nowhere near it. Serena Williams, for sure. For sure. Great athlete. And when you look at her, what she's achieved in tennis, for sure. Roger Federer, again, I can hardly argue. Usain Bolt can hardly argue. Michael Phelps can't argue. Tiger Woods at 3. Well, where's the golden bear? He's got way more majors. I don't understand how Tiger Woods is at 3. Jordan, I understand.
they're saying modern era, so I'm guessing they're
So
talking
when's the
about
modern
the last
era?
20 years.
Oh, fuck.
I don't know.
Sorry.
Well, if
I
it was the
mean,
last 20 years, Michael Jordan wouldn't be in there for starters.
exactly. And I mean, football, yeah. Oh, God,
It's different.
yeah,
It's,
the way they try and say modern era, I mean,
yeah.
that's just like saying football didn't exist before the Premier League.
Yeah.
Come on. If
Yeah.
you're going to say great, the keys in the name, Macca,
Yeah.
all time. Otherwise, you're just doing a go list, aren't you?
Yeah,
It's their go list. No. So give me your greatest of all time.
It's a gort. Goat of recent times.
Yes, it is.
And
Okay.
before I go through my list, I would also like to add, if you're doing it purely on the number of championships that you've won, certain New York Yankees baseballer by the name of Yogi Berra, who played in the 50s and 60s and won 10 World Series titles. So Tom Brady's still got a few to go. But even so, I've still got Tom Brady at my number 5. I think purely for the longevity and ability to play in a physical sport. I know the quarterbacks do get a lot more protection than possibly a wide receiver or a running back or anything like that. But to just carry on and continue at the very top is the reason I've thrown him in at number 5.
Yeah, I think 5's a good number for him, but I mean, I wouldn't have him in my 5. Winning. He's a winner. I mean, Tom Brady, you think winning, but that doesn't make him the greatest of all time to me. Just because you win all the time. There's a lot of people that never win that are still great at their sport. So, sorry, Tom, you're nowhere near mine. My number 5. I'm going to put one of your favorite sports. I'm going to put baseball in there. I'm going to say Babe Ruth is my number 5 of greatest of all time. You look at the records that man, he killed it in baseball for many, many years and was just unlike anything else that baseball had ever seen. So for me, I'll put Babe Ruth in it's all time. So there you go, Babe Ruth.
Good call. You're right. He changed the game of baseball from what it was previously. When he hit 60 home runs in 1923, he hit more than any other team combined in the whole of Major League Baseball. So
exactly. That's sort of how I've judged these are game-changing people in their sports. So so that's mine. Who's your number 4?
Number 4, I've gone for the disgraced golfer Tiger Woods. I think up until he decided to drive his car into hit by a golf club, I think he was on the way to changing the game of golf. And to do what he did, I mean, from a young age, yes, he's gone downhill obviously since then, but in that period from late 90s through to, 8 or 9 years ago, he was just unbelievable, and putting money on him at the TAB was a waste of money because you might make 50 cents on the dollar if you're lucky.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. I've got nothing but admiration for what the guy did. He's the greatest modern day golfer for sure. But not in my top 5. Sorry. My number 4, I had Babe Ruth at number 5. My number 4, I'm going to go to football. My greatest footballer of all time, I put Pelé at my number 4. Once again, game changer. Just the way he played scored 1,000 goals. Won a couple of World Cups, just did it all, and was the greatest player until Maradona came along. And I still consider him because of it's a bit mythological in my world because I was such a child. I just heard the stories, but no one that ever saw him ever forgets it. Pelé is my number 4 and my GOAT.
Marvellous. My number 3 is the great Swiss tennis player, Roger Federer.
Like it.
Just unmatched, really, on the tennis court. I mean, yes, there have been some great players before him: Jimmy Connors, John McEnroe, Pete Sampras, Andre Agassi, Ivan Lendl, but none have been as consistent, wherever as consistent as Roger Federer, winning on every surface multiple times. He's just the greatest men's tennis player that certainly I've ever seen. Older people than I or than you would probably go Rod Laver. But I never saw Rod Laver play, so I can't comment on that. Roger Federer is my number 3.
Okay, good choice. I love the Fed Express. and he's class off the court as well. Just a class act. So yeah, can't argue with that. But none the same so far, which is really interesting. My number three. I'm going to go to cricket and Bradman. For me, I think if you're doing a greatest list of all time in any sporting list, you have to put Bradman up there, just because when you look at the stats and what he achieved, he just doubled everyone else.
Yep.
He was just twice as good as everyone. So I just don't think you can argue with Bradman. A lot of people would say, oh, the sport was a lot slower. It was a lot, but still, people were still bowling a ball when he wasn't wearing hardly any protection. They were still bowling the ball at 140, 150 Ks at him. And so Bradman for me, number three.
I'll just clarify my top five. I've got my top five is since I've been born, basically, players that I've seen.
That's your all time, I suppose. Yeah. Fair enough. It's okay. We've slightly done it, but it's quite good because we're getting some different names. So it's good.
It is.
Yeah.
My number two, I've gone for the Baltimore Bullet, Michael Phelps. I think what he's done in the swimming pool is pretty much unmatched by any other swimmer in recent history. You're going back as far as Mark Spitz as somebody that was probably close to what Phelps has done. But Michael Phelps for me, just an incredible sportsman. And to come back like he did, I can't remember which Olympics it was now, but after an Olympics off, to come back and win medals again 8 years
everywhere. Look, how many did he won? 7 or something? It was ridiculous. I mean, the guy, the human fish. I mean, you can't argue with Michael Phelps, mate. The greatest swimmer of all time. I don't think you can even argue with that statement. The guy is just absolutely amazing. For me, my number two, Michael Jordan. For me, he's the greatest basketballer I ever saw for his scoring, but also for everything else, the way he elevated his team, the way he was just the most competitive, the way he trained harder than everyone else, the way he marketed himself, the way he just changed the game of basketball, the way he took the NBA to the top tier of world sports. He was just box office night after night after night after night. And even if you didn't see him score 50 points, you went and saw Michael Jordan, you saw things that you never thought you'd see. He was like a circus act. He was, and he's just amazing. I mean, what else can you say? Michael Jordan.
Quite right. Yes, my number one is the great Texan cyclist. Oh no, sorry, that was best drug cheat. That was best drug cheat. Sorry about that. My number. You've taken the words out of my mouth, because my number one is Michael Jordan, the great Chicago Bulls basketballer. Whatever you said, ditto, basically. 6 NBA titles, 5 NBA MVP titles. Just
everything. Just drips winning. Okay, and so my number one is a guy in a sport that isn't that popular in New Zealand, but everywhere else in the world it's fairly popular, and especially in the USA and Canada. It's the sport of ice hockey, and I have to go with Wayne Gretzky, because once again, he's like Bradman in cricket. He just changed the game. He just scored 3-4 times as many goals as everyone else. When he first came on the scene, he had like telepathy. I've never seen anyone, perhaps bar someone like Wally Lewis in Rugby League, just seem to do things and know where to be for the next. It's uncanny when you see people that are that good in their sport, where they sort of skate or they move to the next spot and they know where the other people are going to be. This telepathy, you don't see it very often. And he was one of those guys that you just saw all the time. And just the fact that he wasn't a big guy, he was playing a sport that was brutal. He played, lots and lots of minutes, and he just broke every single record there was. So for me, Wayne Gretzky is my GOAT, mate.
The great one. Yeah, so I thought he might appear somewhere in your top 5. I couldn't agree more with you. Everything you said is absolutely correct. I just have not. I
watched enough ice hockey.
Watched a full game of ice hockey.
Well, there you go. Yeah.
And
so I spent a little bit of time in Canada, and I got the feel of their culture, and I got the, it is everything to them. It's like rugby is to us, and And I caught the very end when I was over there, the very end of his career when he was playing for the Kings. And even then, he was close to 40 years old and he was still the best skater, the best scorer, the best player. Just an amazing player.
Now, I don't know about you, but I have named a GOAT because he's played 2 professional sports at the very top level. And he was awarded ESPN's all-round sportsman of the decade.
The athlete of the century, wouldn't he?
Yeah, just because he's an absolute freak, and that's Bo Jackson.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. You and I talked about this when we were communicating earlier in the week, and the guy. I mean, anyone. We talked about Deion Sanders' prime time. He did a similar thing a little bit later on, but Bo Jackson was an absolute bona fide superstar in both sports, wasn't he?
Absolutely.
And once again, like Jordan, he did things on a sporting thing that you'd never see. Like running up the wall to catch that thing and, just hitting the ball out of a stadium and just stuff that's just legendary and epic. And, he would have to be perhaps the greatest. I mean, who was the guy that went to the Olympics in the 40s?
Jim Thorpe.
Jim Thorpe. There you go. Or Jesse Owens is another one. Another one of those. Those are the sort of people that I think that you could put as a GOAT because they are the athletes,
They've succeeded more than just one.
They could succeed in anything they did. You could probably pick up a golf club and hit the ball 400 meters, just phenomenally. The people we all like to hate because they can do everything good.
Well, so there was a really good 30 for 30 documentary on ESPN about Bo Jackson. And
there was.
He plays golf off scratch.
Bastard. Hate him. And he's a great archer. He's great at archery as well. He loves doing his arrows.
He's good at everything.
He is a bit like us, mate. Bit like us. We're
quite
good.
Right. Well, on that note, we've probably talked for long enough.
Way too long.
Way too long. But anyway, we're talking about something we love, and we are. Back in a week or so to talk more about what we love. So it's a good afternoon from me.
And it's a good night from him. We'll catch you next time.
See ya.